In the opulent shadows where love intertwines with avarice and trust is a currency to be plundered, lies a sinister plot far beyond a simple infidelity. This is the narrative of a calculated siege on one's very existence, where the heart's deepest affections are weaponized to orchestrate the theft of wealth, influence, and identity. Prepare to witness a descent into the intricate labyrinth of betrayal, where the unsuspecting are stripped bare and the architects of their ruin believe themselves untouchable. But even in the deepest abyss of despair, a spark of defiance can ignite a blaze of retribution, proving that some games are never truly won until the final hand is played.
The autumn wind, sharp and unforgiving, whistled through the ancient oaks surrounding Blackwood Estate, mimicking the chilling premonition that had begun to whisper in Eleanor Vance's mind. For months, an almost imperceptible shift had occurred in the meticulously ordered world she shared with Arthur, her husband of 15 years. Their conversations, once vibrant tapestries woven with shared dreams and intellectual debates, had become threadbare, punctuated by his clipped responses and the lingering scent of an unfamiliar perfume on his shirts, a faint, sweet aroma that clung to the air like a phantom. Eleanor, a woman whose life had been dedicated to deciphering the hidden narratives within centuries-old canvases, found herself increasingly haunted by the unsettling feeling that a new, unsettling narrative was unfolding within her own home, one she was yet to fully comprehend. It began subtly, as all insidious things do. Arthur, once meticulously punctual, started arriving home late, his explanations vague, punctuated by the manufactured sighs of a man burdened by insurmountable work. His eyes, once quick to meet hers, now darted away, burdened by a weight Eleanor couldn't name. He'd dismiss her subtle inquiries with a practiced tenderness that felt increasingly hollow, a well-rehearsed performance of devotion. Eleanor, fiercely intelligent and acutely observant, found herself caught in a horrifying paradox. The more she sought to understand, the more Arthur seemed to retreat, building an invisible wall between them, fortified by an unsettling silence. The silence was the most damning. It wasn't the comfortable quiet of shared intimacy, but a suffocating void, filled with the unspoken and the unseen. One rainy Tuesday, a particularly oppressive silence had descended upon the grand dining room during dinner. Arthur, engrossed in his phone, barely acknowledged her presence. Later that night, unable to sleep, she wandered into Arthur's study, a sanctuary of mahogany and leather, ostensibly to retrieve a book. Her gaze fell upon his worn leather briefcase, slightly ajar. A flash of something white caught her eye. A hotel receipt. Not just any hotel, but the Azure Palace, a boutique hotel known for its discreet, high-end clientele. And the date, it was for last Tuesday, a night Arthur had claimed to be at a late-night client meeting in the city. Her breath hitched. The sweet perfume, the late nights, the evasiveness, all the disparate threads began to weave themselves into a terrifying tapestry. The next few days were a blur of simulated normalcy. Eleanor moved through the ornate rooms of Blackwood Estate like a ghost, her mind racing, replaying every interaction, every glance, every carefully chosen word. She felt like an archaeologist sifting through the ruins of her own life, each shard of memory a potential clue. The weight of suspicion was a crushing burden, making it difficult to breathe, to think. She found herself watching Arthur with a new, clinical detachment, analyzing his movements, the inflections in his voice, the almost imperceptible tics that betrayed his discomfort. He, oblivious to the seismic shift within her, continued his charade, an unwitting actor in a drama whose script he believed he controlled. The true gut punch came not from Arthur, but from Seraphina Dubois. Serafina, with her cascading dark hair and captivating charm, had been Eleanor's assistant for 2 years. Eleanor had taken the young woman under her wing, mentored her, and trusted her implicitly, even viewing her as a younger sister. Serafina was always eager, always efficient, her loyalty seemingly unwavering. Eleanor remembered the numerous times Serafina would stay late, ostensibly to help with research for upcoming exhibitions, her presence a comforting, familiar fixture in the otherwise solitary world of art history. One afternoon, while working in the library, Eleanor's phone buzzed with a notification. It was from a new security camera system Arthur had insisted on installing around the estate, citing increased security concerns. The notification was for unusual activity in the West Wing, a rarely used section of the house currently undergoing renovations. A wave of irritation washed over Eleanor. Arthur was always so paranoid. She opened the live feed, expecting to see a squirrel or a fallen branch. Instead, her blood ran cold. The camera showed Serafina, not alone, but locked in a passionate embrace with Arthur. His hand, the same hand that had so often clasped hers, was now tangled in Serafina's dark hair. His lips, the same lips that had whispered promises of forever, were pressed against hers with an intensity that made Eleanor's stomach churn. The scene played out in agonizing detail on her phone screen, each frame a hammer blow to her already fractured heart.
The intimate whispers, the knowing glances, the shared laughter. It was a world of complicity she had been utterly excluded from. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it stole the very air from her lungs. This wasn't just an affair. This was a deliberate, calculated violation of her trust, a desecration of everything she held dear. Serafina, her confidant, her protégée, was a viper in her bosom. Eleanor dropped her phone, the clatter echoing in the cavernous silence of the library. Her vision blurred, the meticulously organized bookshelves swimming before her eyes. A primal scream clawed at her throat, but no sound escaped. It was as if her entire being had been encased in ice, a frozen tableau of agony. The images replayed in her mind, a relentless loop of torment. The warmth of the autumn sun streaming through the library windows suddenly felt like a cruel mockery. In the days that followed, Eleanor existed in a fog of disbelief and profound grief. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a mausoleum. Every object, every corner was imbued with the ghosts of a love she now knew was a lie. She observed Arthur and Serafina with a chilling detachment, her pain transmuted into a keen, almost predatory awareness. She noticed the subtle glances they exchanged, the quick, conspiratorial smiles, the way Serafina would subtly brush Arthur's arm as they passed in the hallway. These were not the fleeting gestures of a nascent affair, but the ingrained habits of a long-standing, deeply entrenched deception. The psychological toll was immense. Sleep became a luxury she could no longer afford, haunted by nightmares that mirrored the stark reality of her waking hours. Food lost its taste. The vibrant colors of the art she so cherished now seemed muted, devoid of life. Yet, beneath the crushing weight of despair, a flicker of something else began to ignite. A cold, hard resolve. This wasn't just about a broken heart, it was about a stolen life. One evening, Arthur presented her with a document, a new power of attorney, ostensibly to simplify their financial affairs during his busy architectural projects. He explained it away with his usual charm, stressing its importance for efficiency and future planning. Eleanor, her mind still reeling from the visual confirmation of his infidelity, signed it, her hand shaking imperceptibly. He watched her, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. It was in that moment, as she saw the predatory glint in his eyes, that the pieces truly clicked into place. This wasn't just about sex, it was about something far more sinister.
The affair was merely a smokescreen, a distraction. The true target was her inheritance, her control over the Blackwood estate, and her family's vast financial holdings. A chilling memory surfaced, a hushed conversation she'd overheard between Arthur and an unknown voice on the phone weeks ago. Fragments about liquidation and asset transfer. At the time, she dismissed it as work-related jargon. Now, it resonated with a terrifying clarity. The signs had been there, subtle at first, then increasingly overt. Arthur's sudden insistence on optimizing her portfolio, his subtle criticisms of her business acumen, the repeated suggestions to delegate more financial decisions to him. He had been systematically laying the groundwork, carefully dismantling her control, piece by piece, under the guise of shared responsibility. The realization was a punch to the gut, colder and more devastating than the betrayal of her heart. She wasn't just a cuckolded wife, she was a target. Her despair began to morph into a burning, righteous fury. The emotional devastation transformed into a razor-sharp clarity. The game had changed. This wasn't just about hurt, it was about survival. It was about reclaiming what was rightfully hers. She was no longer a victim. She was a strategist. Eleanor began to subtly investigate. She feigned exhaustion, retreating to her studio, claiming she needed space to process her feelings. This gave her the perfect cover. Late at night, while Arthur slept soundly beside her, she would slip out of bed, her bare feet silent on the cold marble floors. She started with their shared digital accounts, meticulously sifting through transaction records, emails, and shared documents. She found suspicious transfers. Large sums moved to unknown offshore accounts and correspondence with shell corporations she didn't recognize. The paper trail was growing, intricate and damning. The most damning discovery came from an old, dusty safe in her late grandmother's study, a place Arthur never bothered with. Her grandmother, a formidable woman who had built the family fortune with an iron will, had left behind a trove of encrypted financial ledgers and contingency plans, safeguards against any attempt to seize the estate. Eleanor found a hidden compartment behind a loose brick in the fireplace, revealing a small, velvet-lined box containing a series of ornate keys and a leather-bound journal. The journal, written in her grandmother's elegant script, detailed her deepest fears about financial predators and provided a meticulous guide to the family's assets, including hidden trusts and overseas investments Arthur had no knowledge of. More chillingly, it contained a coded warning about individuals who sought to exploit vulnerabilities, a warning that now felt eerily prophetic. As Eleanor pieced together the puzzle, the sheer scale of the deception became terrifyingly clear. Arthur and Serafina weren't just taking her money, they were systematically isolating her, severing her ties to her professional network, and undermining her reputation. She recalled a recent incident at an important art auction where Serafina had accidentally misfiled crucial bidding documents, leading to Eleanor missing out on a rare Renaissance piece she had coveted for years. It had seemed like a simple error at the time, but now it resonated with a sinister undertone. They were systematically dismantling her life, preparing to make her disappear professionally and financially. The truth was a bitter, nauseating pill. Her husband, the man she had loved and trusted implicitly, was not just a cheat, but a thief, a conspirator. And Serafina, the young woman she had nurtured, was his willing accomplice, a Judas in her own home. The pain was still raw, but it was now overshadowed by a cold, calculating fury. The emotional devastation transformed into a razor-sharp clarity. The realization that they had been systematically grooming her, manipulating her emotions, and exploiting her trust hardened her resolve. She was no longer a victim, she was a strategist. The first chapter closes with Eleanor, late at night, in the hidden study, the faint glow of her laptop illuminating her face. She holds her grandmother's journal, its worn leather, a comforting weight in her hand. Her eyes, once clouded with grief, now glitter with a fierce, unwavering determination. She glances at a framed photograph on the desk, a picture of her and Arthur on their wedding day, their faces alight with what she now knows was a lie. A ghost of a smile, sharp and cold, touches her lips. They thought they had outsmarted her. They thought she was broken. But they had underestimated the silent strength of a woman scorned, a woman who understood that even in the darkest corners, the truth would eventually find its light. The game was far from over. It had just begun.
Eleanor arranged her first secret meeting with a private investigator named Silas Blackwood, a man known for his discretion and sharp, unconventional methods. She chose a dimly lit, secluded cafe on the outskirts of the city, far from prying eyes. The air hung heavy with the scent of old books and strong coffee, mirroring the weight of the secrets she was about to unveil. Silas, a man with eyes that seemed to miss nothing and a face etched with years of observing human folly, listened intently as Eleanor, her voice a low, steady murmur, laid out the skeletal framework of her suspicions. She spoke of Arthur's late nights, the perfume, the hotel receipt, and the chilling realization of his true intentions. Silas, his gaze unwavering, merely nodded, occasionally jotting down notes in a small, leather-bound notebook. He didn't offer sympathy or judgment, only a calm, almost unnerving professionalism that Eleanor found oddly comforting. "This is a chess game, Mrs. Vance," he stated, his voice a gravelly murmur, "and your husband has made the first move. Now it's your turn." He then outlined his strategy, a meticulous, multi-pronged approach that would involve surveillance, financial forensics, and a deep dive into Arthur and Seraphina's digital footprints. Eleanor, despite the gnawing anxiety, felt a surge of cold determination. This was her chance to fight back. The first phase of the investigation began. Silas's team, ghost-like and efficient, started tracking Arthur and Seraphina's movements, capturing discrete photographs and videos. They uncovered a pattern of secret rendezvous at various high-end restaurants, secluded parks, and, of course, the Azure Palace. The visual evidence was damning, each image a fresh wound, but a necessary one. Simultaneously, Silas's digital forensics expert began to unravel their online lives. They unearthed a vast, interconnected network of shell companies, offshore accounts, and fraudulent transactions, all meticulously crafted to siphon off Eleanor's inheritance.
Emails revealed their callous planning, discussing Eleanor's diminishing faculties and how to expedite the asset transfer. The cold, calculating nature of their betrayal was more horrifying than any passion could have been. Meanwhile, back at Blackwood Estate, Eleanor maintained her facade, her silence a potent weapon. She observed Seraphina with a new, clinical eye. Seraphina, emboldened by her perceived victory, became increasingly brazen. She would accidentally leave Arthur's shirts in Eleanor's laundry basket, subtly arrange flowers Arthur had given her in prominent places, and even hum tunes that Eleanor recognized as Arthur's favorites while she worked. Each subtle jab was a deliberate act of psychological warfare, designed to break Eleanor's spirit. Eleanor, however, absorbed each calculated cruelty, transforming her pain into a cold, unwavering resolve. She realized Seraphina was not just a naive young woman caught in an affair. She was a willing, active participant in Arthur's elaborate scheme, a co-conspirator driven by greed and ambition. The revelation stripped away any lingering sympathy Eleanor might have had, replacing it with a burning, quiet fury. This was not just a betrayal of love, but an assault on her very identity, her legacy. A pivotal moment came during one of Arthur's elaborate dinner parties, a regular charade designed to maintain appearances. Seraphina, dressed in a stunning emerald gown, circulated with an air of newfound confidence, subtly monopolizing Arthur's attention, their hushed conversations punctuated by intimate laughter. Eleanor, a silent observer from across the room, felt a chilling detachment, as if watching actors on a stage. Amidst the glittering facade, Eleanor noticed a familiar face: Oliver Caldwell, a renowned art dealer and a longtime friend of her family, known for his sharp mind and impeccable ethics. He was engaged in a polite but distant conversation with Arthur. Eleanor subtly maneuvered through the throng, catching Oliver's eye. Their brief exchange was coded, a silent understanding passing between them. "Eleanor," he murmured, his eyes conveying a question, "are you well?" Eleanor simply met his gaze, a subtle, almost imperceptible shake of her head. Oliver, a man who understood the nuances of the art world's hidden languages, instantly comprehended. He offered a veiled invitation to discuss a rare acquisition at his gallery the following day. Eleanor nodded, a flicker of grim satisfaction in her eyes. This was her first overt step in drawing allies, discreetly signaling her need for help to someone she could implicitly trust outside of her immediate, compromised circle. The next day, at Silas's office, a stark contrast to the opulent Blackwood estate, Eleanor reviewed the accumulated evidence: photographs, financial statements, call logs, a chilling mosaic of deception. Silas laid out a comprehensive plan. "We need to hit them where it hurts the most, Mrs. Vance," he explained, gesturing to a diagram on a whiteboard. "Their reputation and their financial network. But we have to be meticulous, precise. One wrong move and everything unravels." Their plan involved strategically leaking information to key figures in both the art world and the financial sector, discrediting Arthur and Seraphina's professional standing. Simultaneously, they would quietly freeze the offshore accounts and expose the shell corporations, effectively cutting off their illicit financial arteries. The sheer audacity of the plan sent a shiver down Eleanor's spine, but it was a shiver of exhilaration, not fear. Over the next few weeks, Eleanor continued her performance at Blackwood Estate, playing the role of the devoted, if somewhat melancholy wife. She attended social functions, exchanged pleasantries with Seraphina, and discussed meaningless details with Arthur, all the while knowing she held their fate in her hands. The duality of her existence was both exhausting and exhilarating. Silas and his team executed their plan with surgical precision. Whispers began to circulate in the elite circles of London and New York. Questions were raised about Arthur's recent financial dealings, rumors of his extravagant spending, and hushed mentions of an unprofessional liaison with his assistant. Seraphina's reputation, once pristine, started to unravel under the weight of subtle accusations of impropriety and ambition. Arthur, caught off guard, initially dismissed the rumors as baseless gossip, a mere inconvenience. But as prestigious art galleries began to cancel his exhibitions and wealthy clients subtly distanced themselves, a flicker of panic began to set in. Simultaneously, the financial net tightened. Offshore accounts were frozen, suspicious transactions flagged, and the shell corporations exposed as fronts for illicit activities. Seraphina, less adept at maintaining a facade, became visibly agitated.
Her usually flawless composure cracked, replaced by nervous glances and hushed arguments with Arthur. The once intimate co-conspirators now turned on each other, their shared guilt transforming into mutual suspicion and resentment. Eleanor watched, a silent, grim satisfaction simmering beneath her composed exterior. The serpent's lair was beginning to crumble from within. The climax arrived on a tempestuous autumn evening. Arthur, his usual charm replaced by a desperate rage, confronted Eleanor in the grand drawing room. He accused her of sabotage, his voice laced with venom. Eleanor, calm and collected, met his fury with a chilling stillness. "You underestimated me, Arthur," she said, her voice soft but unwavering. "You thought I was merely a decorative accessory to your ambitions. But you forgot one thing. I am a Vance, and we protect what is ours." Then Silas Blackwood stepped out from the shadows, a portable projector in his hand. He clicked a button, and the wall was flooded with images, evidence of their affair, the intricate web of financial fraud, their incriminating emails. Arthur's face paled, the rage replaced by a terrifying dread. Seraphina, who had been silently watching from the doorway, gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The game was truly over. Arthur, stripped of his bravado, quickly crumbled. Faced with irrefutable evidence and the threat of legal repercussions, he confessed everything, implicating Seraphina in the process. His confession was a bitter validation for Eleanor, confirming the depth of his deception. Seraphina, cornered and exposed, could only offer a weak, tearful plea for mercy, which fell on deaf ears. In the quiet aftermath, Eleanor stood surveying her domain. The Blackwood estate, once tainted by deceit, now felt cleansed. The truth, harsh as it was, had set her free. With Arthur facing legal consequences and Seraphina's career irrevocably ruined, Eleanor began the arduous process of rebuilding her life and reclaiming her family's legacy. It was a victory, but a bittersweet one. The scars would remain, but so too would the strength she had found in the crucible of betrayal. Eleanor Vance, the woman who had lived among shadows, was finally stepping into the light, ready to paint her own future, unapologetically and on her own terms.
The legal proceedings were protracted and grueling, a public airing of private wounds. Yet Eleanor navigated them with a quiet dignity that earned her the respect of even the most hardened legal professionals. Arthur and Seraphina, stripped of their power and influence, became shadows of their former selves, their elaborate scheme collapsing around them like a house of cards. The media, initially hungry for scandal, eventually shifted their focus, recognizing Eleanor's resilience and the sheer audacity of the betrayal she had overcome. With Arthur facing embezzlement charges and Seraphina's career in ruins, Eleanor finally had the space to breathe, to truly begin the process of healing. The first step was to restore Blackwood Estate. It had been more than just a house. It was a symbol of her family's legacy, a canvas waiting to be repainted. She meticulously oversaw the removal of anything that reminded her of Arthur and Seraphina, clearing the spaces, literally and figuratively, for a new chapter. She threw herself into her work as an art historian, but with a renewed passion, a deeper understanding of the human condition, particularly the darker shades of it. She organized new exhibits, focusing on themes of resilience, transformation, and the hidden narratives within art. Her expertise, combined with her compelling personal story, drew international attention. Her lectures were standing room only, her opinions sought after by the most prestigious institutions. Her career flourished, a testament to her inherent talent and unwavering spirit. Oliver Caldwell became a close confidant and ally, their shared love for art solidifying their bond. He was a steady presence, offering quiet support and insightful advice, a stark contrast to the manipulative men who had recently inhabited her life. Their professional collaborations blossomed, leading to breakthrough discoveries and influential publications that further cemented Eleanor's reputation as a leading figure in her field. Silas Blackwood, though fading from her daily life, remained a silent guardian. His network occasionally provided discreet updates on Arthur and Seraphina's continued downward spiral. Eleanor felt no pleasure in their misfortune, only a quiet sense of justice served. The anger had subsided, replaced with a profound sense of peace. She had emerged from the ashes, a phoenix reborn, stronger and wiser than before. One crisp autumn morning, a year after the trials concluded, Eleanor stood on the terrace of Blackwood Estate, overlooking the sprawling gardens. The air was fresh and clean, carrying the earthy scent of fallen leaves.
A sense of profound contentment washed over her. She had not only reclaimed her inheritance and her reputation, but, more importantly, her sense of self. The scars of betrayal remained, but they were now badges of resilience, reminders of the strength she possessed. She began to host small, intimate gatherings at Blackwood Estate, filled with laughter, intellectual discourse, and genuine warmth. These were not the performative social events of the past, but true connections forged in shared passion and mutual respect. Her relationships, once built on fragile foundations of expectation and deceit, were now anchored in authenticity. One evening, Oliver Caldwell joined her for a quiet dinner in the restored dining room. The room, once a scene of silent torment, now radiated a gentle, comforting glow from the flickering candlelight. Their conversation flowed easily, touching on art, history, and the quiet joys of life. There was an unspoken understanding between them, a tenderness that had slowly blossomed from shared hardship and mutual admiration. Oliver reached across the table, gently taking her hand. His touch was warm, reassuring, a stark contrast to the cold calculation she had grown accustomed to. "Eleanor," he began, his voice soft, "you have faced unimaginable challenges with incredible grace. You deserve happiness." Eleanor looked into his kind, honest eyes, a genuine smile gracing her lips. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine a future not dictated by past hurts, but built on genuine connection and profound respect. The Blackwood Estate, now a vibrant hub of intellectual and artistic pursuits, became Eleanor's sanctuary and her legacy. She dedicated a portion of her time to philanthropy, establishing a foundation to support emerging female artists and scholars, ensuring that other women would have the opportunities she had fought so hard to reclaim. Her life, once a tragedy, had been transformed into a triumph, a testament to the enduring power of resilience, truth, and the unwavering strength of the human spirit. The echoes of betrayal, though still present, no longer consumed her. They served as a constant reminder of her past, but also of how far she had come.
The grand halls of Blackwood Estate, once filled with suffocating silence and whispered lies, now resonated with the lively discussions of scholars and the gentle brush strokes of artists. Eleanor had meticulously cleansed her home, transforming it into a beacon of truth and integrity. Her grandmother's journal, once a source of chilling warnings, became a comforting guide, a testament to the enduring strength of the Vance women. Eleanor found solace in its pages, realizing she was not alone in facing such challenges. She began incorporating aspects of her grandmother's philosophy into her own foundation, emphasizing the importance of independent thought and financial literacy for women. She often spent her afternoons in the library, not sifting through financial records, but immersed in the study of ancient texts and forgotten artists. The quiet pursuit of knowledge became her anchor, a source of profound joy that transcended the pain of her past. She found beauty in the subtle nuances of brushstrokes, the intricate stories woven into tapestries, and the silent narratives of forgotten sculptures. Eleanor learned to savor the simple pleasures, the scent of her grandmother's roses in the garden, the warmth of a crackling fire on a cold evening, the comforting presence of loyal friends. The grandiosity of her previous life, steeped in pretense and hidden agendas,
had been replaced by a quiet authenticity, a deep appreciation for genuine connection. She occasionally read news reports about Arthur and Serafina, their names now synonymous with disgrace and ruin. Arthur, stripped of his assets and his professional license, struggled to find work, his once charming demeanor now tainted by public scorn. Serafina, ostracized from the art world, disappeared from public view entirely. Eleanor felt no schadenfreude, just a quiet acknowledgement that justice, in its own slow way, had been served. The legal battles and emotional turmoil had forged her into a woman of immense strength and unwavering conviction. She had learned the hard way that trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered, but also that resilience was an inexhaustible resource. Her story became an inspiration to many, a testament to the power of one woman to reclaim her life from the jaws of betrayal. While her love for Arthur had died a painful death, a new, gentle affection for Oliver had blossomed. It was a quieter, more mature love, built not on grand gestures or passionate declarations, but on mutual respect, intellectual kinship, and shared values. Their future remained unwritten, but it was filled with the promise of authentic connection and genuine happiness. Eleanor found a new rhythm, a profound sense of peace that had long eluded her. She spent her days immersed in art, her evenings in the comforting company of Oliver and a few trusted friends. The grand old house, once a prison of her own making, had become a haven, reflecting the serenity she had finally found within herself. Her past was a chapter she had closed, its lessons learned, its pain transformed into wisdom. She now lived a life of unapologetic authenticity, free from the constraints of societal expectations and the insidious machinations of those who sought to exploit her. The truth, though initially devastating, had ultimately set her free, allowing her to forge a path defined by her own terms, her own values. She was not just a survivor, but a creator of her own destiny. Blackwood Estate, once a monument to a shattered past, now stood as a proud testament to her resilience, a place where art and life intertwined, where hidden narratives were brought to light, and where a woman, once lost in the shadows, had found her way back to herself brighter and more vibrant than ever before. Her story was a reminder that even from the deepest ashes, a phoenix could rise, stronger, more beautiful, and truly free.